Hi, this is Vince, Auto Restoration Videos. Today our brief little demo is going to be on how to rebuild a brake caliper out of a 1982 Porsche 911sc. Now somebody put racing brake shoes in this thing, and that was a big mistake, because unless you're going 100 miles an hour and jam on the brakes, these things, man, they just about even stop the car. With racing brakes, you need a lot of heat for them to work. All right, during normal street driving, you usually don't have all that heat, and so they're not going to work too hot. And they're a lot harder, and they squeal a lot. All right, not to mention this caliper was dragging and squealing like crazy. Okay, so that's why I'm rebuilding it. Now, there's only two real bolts that hold this thing on. They came off real easy. And then you have, the brake line that goes on it right here. Now I got a little plug in this hole. This is the brake line that goes right here. I plugged up that hole so I don't get any debris in there. All right. Now, before you even take this thing apart, what you want to do is clean it up real good. Now, if you got red paint on this thing or something, I suggest you scrape that stuff off before you even start. All right. Now, lots of times these people, they paint these things and they don't glass bead them first, and that's why the paint don't stick. Plus, they probably never really cleaned it right either. So I got this little knife here. See, it's got like the teeth on it. Now this is real brittle paint. Alright, this is probably, I don't know what kind it is, like epoxy paint or something. If this would be enamel, it wouldn't come off this easy, because enamel stays a lot softer, a lot longer, unless you put some kind of a hardener in it or something. I know a lot of guys are doing this. You see what I mean? It comes right off like that. So now I picked up some brake cleaner at Walmart, and I got a toothbrush here, and it looks like I might have to resort to a wire brush on this too to get all this blackness out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get my can of brake cleaner here and set up a little better here, and we'll see you in a couple seconds. Now let's test out this cheap brake cleaner, see how we make out. This stuff dries really quick in the sun, let me tell you. I'm not that impressed with this brake cleaner that I just picked up from Walmart, let me tell you. The bolts that hold my caliper together are pretty rusty. I'm not even going to mess with that, because it looks like I'm going to have to throw this in the glass beater anyway. Let's try it on this side. This side don't even look as bad. Notice I'm wearing these blue chemical resistant gloves. If you use the white latex, they'll probably melt on you. No, I'm not that impressed. Give that a second to dry. Then we're going to take out our stuff, our brake shoes. Now, if you want to get out these brake pads, you have to drive out these two pins that are here. You have to get yourself a punch. Just tap them out. Then once you get them tapped out, you can remove them. Well, the one's out already. Take the one pin out, take the other pin out, take the spring adjuster. That's really nasty. I'm going to have to glass bead this and paint this thing before I put that in. And take out the other pad. Now, if we look at this, you can see this whole boot is broken, rotted away, and the piston itself on the outside anyway is all loaded with rust. Doesn't look too good. Doesn't look too good right off the bat. Now, I'm going to leave it just like this. And you noticed I did have a plug in here. I got to put another plug back in here. Then we'll take it on my glass beater and clean this thing up. Now I'm going to go ahead and blast those pins I took out, and I'm also going to blast that retainer clip that the brake pads go in. Then after that, I'm going to put my caliper in with my little plug that goes in where the brake line goes to make sure I don't get any blast beading inside of my caliper. I'm sure that as soon as I start this thing up, you're going to hear that compressor kick on, because it works automatically. Without a glass beater, you could be here a long time trying to get all this rust off. If you're doing any kind of restoration work at all, a glass beater is really the only way to go. Well, I'm going to go ahead and glass bead me a little while longer. And you get the idea. I'll show you the finished product in about 15 minutes my time, your time about 1 second. Now I have a little spring clip that holds the brake pads in. Now this is really pitted and pretty bad, man. So I'm going to go ahead and put primer on this. Rusty metal primer by Rust-Oleum. However, on these two little retaining pins, I'm just going to spray them black. Chances are, even the black I put on here is going to get scraped off once I push it inside of the caliper. But we'll give it a shot anyway. Got to make sure your paint is warm. Let it sit out in the sun for a while before you spray with it. Should spray these things in 4 angles. Well, something like this you would anyway. So you got the idea. I'm going to go ahead and get out my black paint now and do those little pins, and we'll be right back. Now this is the caliper I just got done glass beading. Notice I got all the rust off on these nuts that hold it together. Now when you go ahead and you go to rebuild this thing, you don't have to split this caliper in half, because chances are when you put it back together, it will leak. So that's not bad. That's not bad at all. Now when I paint it, I'm going to prime it first, and I'm going to paint it red after I'm done. Okay? Now first thing we want to do is blow this piston out. I just found out the brake pads they sent me are wrong, but what else is new? Okay? You know what I'm saying. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little piece of wood in the middle here. I'm going to get an air hose with an air nozzle little rubber tip on it like this, and blow these things out. The caliper and pistons don't look as bad as I thought they were going to look, surprisingly, since the one was frozen in there. Now this is one piston here, and we only have rust right up above where the O-ring seal goes, so that's not bad. That's probably where she was sticking. Now the other one was the same way, and I removed the rust with the Scotch-Brite pad. Now my batteries went out on this camera a little while ago, but I took pictures of it with my camera. Hopefully I'll be able to get those into this video so you can see how I removed the frozen piston that was in there. In case I can't overlay the sound on that part, I'm going to tell you now what I had to do when I applied 140 psi pounds of air through the bleeder opening. What happened was I blew the one piston out. Okay, that was good, but the other one was froze. So what I had to do was put that one piston that came out, I had to put it back in. Then I had to get a big C-clamp to hold that piston in. Alright, then I put the air back on it again to blow out the other one, and I had a piece of wood in there again, and the piece of wood, you know, stopped it from smashing into the other one and possibly breaking, and that was good. But the other one did manage to come out. However, before I even tried blowing that second piston out, it was actually frozen in the cylinder. I got some liquid wrench and I sprayed it all around, you know, with my caliper laying down so the weight of the liquid wrench would just soak in there. I let that soak for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then because I have a little notch in the top of this piston, there's a little notch here. So I got a chisel and a little ball-peen hammer, and I tapped it to the left, then I tapped it to the right, just like kind of to break it loose in the opening from where the piston goes. Alright, so I managed to break it loose a little bit. Then I put the air on and I blew it out. Alright, and then what happened was the piston only came out about 3/4 of the way. So, well, probably because I had that big C-clamp in there, I couldn't get out any farther. So then I had to get a big vice grip with long pointy nose pliers in there, and I had to just grab the top lip of the piston. Alright, then I held it with the pliers, and I was managed to pull it out with no problem at all. Now, I'm going to try to take a close-up here of the inside of this caliper where these came out, and you can see the same ridge above where the O-ring goes in the caliper is kind of rusted too. So I'm going to have to go in there with my little pad, my Scotch-Brite pad, and get that nice and clean. And then after I do that and I clean it out good with some brake spray, brake cleaning solvent, I'll be able to clean that out real nice and then put the new O-rings in and then, you know, we'll take it from there. All right. So let me zoom in now for a shot of that caliper. Now you can see that area right in front of that black O-ring that has to be really cleaned out, and I'm pretty sure that's where she was sticking. Excuse my handheld camera. So this is the O-ring right here. So this is the part right here that I'm going to have to really clean out. Now this is almost the same way on the one on the other side too. Looks like she was rubbing over here, maybe even sticking though. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this one out. There's one on the other side too. That's almost the same thing. We're going to have to clean that one too. And of course, after you clean it out, then you have to go in with a brake cleaner spray and get all that nasty stuff out of there. Now let's try to get that O-ring out. Notice I'm using something with a little tiny hook on the end. That's all to it. Now we have to clean this out pretty good. Seems to be a lot of stuff in here. Just regular dirt. So we're going to do the same thing the other side here. And I think what we're going to do, we're going to take this outside for a couple minutes and just spray it with my brake cleaner. Now we have these big O-ring seals in here. We want to make sure we get them wet in brake fluid before we install them. Doesn't take much. They look good. Now let's put them in. You want to just push these in with your fingers. You can almost do it better by feel and even looking at it. Almost. Okay, that's it. Now we want to get our pistons and coat them with some silicone grease before we install them. Now you have to get your silicone all over your piston. Rub some silicone on top of your gasket. This one was a piece of cake. The first one I did, I had to actually walk back and forth a little bit just to get it to go in. Now, these pistons are supposed to be placed in a unique position. Let's put it that way. With this being at a 90, these slots are supposed to be at a 20 degree angle. It's supposed to stop your brakes from squealing. I still have the dust boots to put on here, I didn't forget. Alright, so we're going to have to twist these things for a 20-degree angle. But first, we're going to have to figure out a way to get this at a 90-degree angle. In order to get this groove in the right position, I'm going to have to tap this piston around so you get the idea. Now, according to the book, 101 Projects for Your Porsche, you're supposed to have 20-degree angle on here. Then when you slide this in like this, both your notches should line up, and your rotation of your wheel is coming down this way. Now, if you set your notches up on your pistons to fall into this angle, supposedly your brakes won't squeal. Now, this is the same thing on the back side. You set them up the same way. Alright? But now the book is saying that this is 20 degrees. But you can just look at that and tell it's not. I say it's closer to 40. So they drew the diagram wrong. But I'm assuming it's 40 because I kind of like expolated on the drawing they had, and this is what I came up with. So I'm going to go ahead and put my dust boots on this thing now with a little ring around it, and that should be about it for this one. One more thing, I got to blow these things back out again about maybe an inch, so this dust boot will go around that piston. I got them pushed in too much from me tapping on them to move them into position. Here it is all together. I'm not that impressed with these round rings they got on here. The ones that came off here were flat, so they just laid perfectly. I'm afraid of these because they might roll off. Well, that's what they sent. We'll have to try them out. This is Vince, Auto Restoration Videos, saying have a good day, twirling your wrench.